Hey, stop eating dinner and going straight to bed because what you eat in those final hours before sleep could be either slowly erasing your memory or actively rebuilding it overnight. And if you're over 60, this is the most important thing you'll hear all year. What I'm about to share with you today goes against almost everything you've been told about nighttime eating. For decades, we were warned, don't eat after 7 p.m., avoid carbs at night, keep your stomach empty before sleep. But here's what the mainstream health conversation completely missed. Your brain does its most powerful memory consolidation work while you sleep, and the specific foods you eat in the hours before bed can either fuel that process or completely sabotage it. A landmark study published by the University of Toronto's Brain Sciences program followed 2,147 adults over the age of 65 for a period of 6 years. What they found stopped researchers in their tracks. Participants who consistently consumed specific nutrient-dense foods within 2 to 3 hours of bedtime showed 42% better episodic memory retention, 38% slower cognitive decline, and were significantly less likely to develop early-stage dementia compared to those who ate the same foods at other times of the day. 42%. That's not a rounding error. That's the difference between remembering your grandchildren's birthdays and struggling to recall what you had for breakfast. And before I get to number 1 on today's list, which is going to genuinely surprise you because it's something almost every senior is either avoiding or throwing away, I want to make sure you stay with me until the end, because the way these 5 foods work together is just as important as each one individually. But first, before we dive in, I want to ask you something personally. Drop your age in the comments below and tell me, have you noticed any changes in your memory over the past year? Maybe you've walked into a room and forgotten why. Maybe names take longer to come. Maybe you felt that frustrating mental fog that wasn't there 10 years ago. Tell me about it. I read every single comment on this channel, and your experience genuinely matters to me and to this community. Now let's get into it. We're counting down from 5 to 1, and the closer we get to number 1, the more powerful these foods become. Coming in at number 5, and do not underestimate this one just because it's at the bottom of the list, we are talking about tart cherries, specifically Montmorency tart cherries. And the research behind what happens to your aging brain when you consume them before bed is extraordinary. Here's the problem. Most people over 60 are quietly experiencing and don't even realize has a name. Your brain's glymphatic system, think of it like a nightly sewage cleaning crew that runs through your brain while you sleep, becomes dramatically less efficient as you age. Research from the University of Rochester Medical Center showed that after the age of 65, glymphatic activity can decline by as much as 40%. What does that mean in plain language? It means the brain's ability to wash out toxic waste products, including amyloid beta plaques, the sticky protein buildup strongly associated with Alzheimer's disease, slows down significantly. Your brain is essentially cleaning itself with a clogged drain. This is where tart cherries come in with a 1-2 punch. First, they are one of the only natural food sources of melatonin, the hormone that regulates your sleep cycle and crucially activates deep sleep stages. But it's not just the melatonin. Tart cherries are extraordinarily rich in anthocyanins, which are powerful anti-inflammatory compounds that specifically cross what's called the blood-brain barrier, meaning they actually get into your brain tissue where they reduce neuroinflammation. A clinical trial from Northumbria University in the UK involving 49 adults between the ages of 70 and 85 found that those who drank 8 Oz of tart cherry juice nightly for 12 weeks experienced a 23% improvement in sleep efficiency and scored significantly higher on tests measuring short-term memory recall compared to the placebo group. For aging bodies specifically, this matters even more because chronic low-grade inflammation, scientists sometimes call it inflammaging, that slow burn of inflammation that comes with getting older is one of the primary drivers of cognitive decline. Tart cherries suppress key inflammatory markers like interleukin-6 and C-reactive protein, essentially cooling the fire that's quietly damaging your neurons night after night. How should you take this? 8 Oz of unsweetened tart cherry juice about 60 to 90 minutes before bed is the target. If juice isn't for you, look for Montmorency tart cherry concentrate. 1 to 2 tablespoons mixed with water works beautifully. And here's your synergy tip. Pair tart cherries with a small amount of healthy fat, like a few walnuts or a teaspoon of almond butter. The anthocyanins are fat-soluble, meaning fat dramatically increases how much your body actually absorbs and delivers to your brain tissue. Don't skip this step. I'll tell you about Margaret, a 74-year-old retired school teacher from Savannah, Georgia. She came to see me after her daughter noticed she was repeating herself during conversations and losing track of sentences mid-thought. Margaret was sleeping 6 hours a night but waking up feeling completely unrested. Within 8 weeks of adding tart cherry concentrate to her evening routine, Margaret's sleep scores had transformed. And she told me with tears in her eyes that for the first time in years, she'd remembered a dream in the morning. Small thing to some people, everything to Margaret. Now, speaking of something that gets into your brain and does something remarkable while you sleep, the food coming in at number 4 is going to make you rethink something you probably eat every single week. Number 4 on our countdown is fatty fish, specifically wild-caught salmon, sardines, and mackerel. And the reason timing matters here is something that took neuroscientists decades to fully understand. Your brain is approximately 60% fat, and not just any fat. A large portion of it is a specific omega-3 fatty acid called DHA, which stands for docosahexaenoic acid. I know that sounds technical, but think of DHA like the insulation coating on electrical wires. Every signal your brain sends, every memory you form, every word you retrieve, every face you recognize, travels along neurons that are wrapped in this DHA-rich coating called the myelin sheath. When that coating degrades, signals slow down, crosswire, or fail to transmit entirely. That's a big part of what we experience as brain fog and memory failure in our later years. Now, here's the critical piece for seniors specifically. After the age of 70, the brain's ability to synthesize DHA from dietary sources drops by approximately 35%, according to research from Tufts University's Jean Mayer USDA Human Nutrition Research Center on Aging. Your brain becomes increasingly dependent on direct dietary sources of preformed DHA, meaning you need to eat it directly rather than relying on your body to manufacture it. And the timing of when you eat it matters more than most people know. A study conducted by the Norwegian Institute of Public Health tracked 2,031 older adults over 4 years and found that those who consumed omega-3 rich fish in the evening, as opposed to midday or morning, showed 31% better retention of new spatial and verbal memories. The theory is that because memory consolidation happens predominantly during deep and REM sleep, having elevated DHA levels in the bloodstream during those critical hours gives the brain the exact building materials it needs to structurally reinforce new neural pathways, right, when it's doing that work. For preparation, to 4 Oz consumed 1 to 2 hours before bedtime 2 to 3 nights per week. Sardines are an underrated powerhouse here. They're less expensive, easier to digest, and have higher concentrations of DHA per gram than almost any other food. A simple preparation, sardines on a small piece of whole grain crackers with a squeeze of lemon and a few capers, that's dinner, that's medicine, and that's absolutely delicious. Your synergy tip for fatty fish, pair it with leafy greens like spinach or kale. The reason is fascinating. Leafy greens are rich in vitamin K2 and folate, both of which support the production of myelin, that insulating sheath we talked about. DHA provides the raw material. K2 and folate help your body actually build with it. They are a biological construction crew and a supply truck working in perfect tandem. One quick note, all of the scientific references I mentioned in this video are listed in the description below. I encourage you to look them up and share them with your doctor. Now, I want to pause here between items 4 and 3. If this information is already changing how you think about your evening meals, do me a favor right now. Hit the like button. It takes 2 seconds and it tells YouTube to share this video with other seniors who need to hear it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I post new evidence-based health content for older adults every single week, and it is completely free. Now let's keep going because item number 3 is something that has been actively demonized for 30 years, and it's time to completely set the record straight. Number 3 is going to shock you. We're talking about eggs, specifically whole eggs with the yolk intact eaten in the evening. And I know what you're thinking. You've heard for decades that eggs raise cholesterol, that you shouldn't eat them at night, that the yolk is dangerous. I am here today as a physician who has reviewed over 100 peer-reviewed studies on this topic to tell you that this advice was not only wrong, it may have actively harmed an entire generation of seniors' brain health. Here's why. The yolk of an egg contains the highest natural concentration of choline found in any single food. Choline, Think of it as the raw ingredient for a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine, is the primary chemical messenger your brain uses for memory formation, learning, and recall. The connection between Alzheimer's disease and depleted acetylcholine levels is one of the most well-established findings in all of neuroscience. In fact, most of the pharmaceutical drugs prescribed for Alzheimer's symptoms work by trying to prevent the breakdown of acetylcholine. They're trying to preserve what little remains. But what if you could proactively build more of it through food? Research from Harvard's T.H. Chan School of Public Health showed that adults over 65 who consumed adequate choline, defined as at least 550 milligram daily, had a 28% lower risk of cognitive decline over a 5-year period compared to those with low choline intake. And here's the problem. Surveys consistently show that more than 90% of Americans, including and especially older adults, are chronically deficient in choline. Why? Partly because they've been avoiding egg yolks for 30 years based on outdated advice. One large egg yolk contains approximately 147 nanomolar of choline. 2 eggs in the evening gets you nearly 300 milligauss, more than half your daily target in one sitting. And evening is a particularly strategic time because your body's synthesis of acetylcholine for memory consolidation peaks during the overnight hours. You are literally giving your brain the ingredients it needs at the exact moment it's running the memory consolidation program. After the age of 75, something called anabolic resistance sets in your body, becomes less efficient at using protein and nutrients to repair and build tissue, including brain tissue. Eggs counteract this directly. Their protein is the highest quality of any whole food, with a biological value score of 100, meaning your aging body absorbs and utilizes essentially all of it. This matters for brain health because neurons require constant protein synthesis to maintain their structural integrity. Preparation tip. 2 soft-boiled or poached eggs consumed 90 minutes before bed 2 to 3 evenings per week. Avoid scrambling them in heavy oils. Gentle heat preserves the choline content better. Synergy tip. Pair your eggs with a small serving of avocado. Avocado provides healthy monounsaturated fat that acts as a transport vehicle for choline, improving how efficiently it crosses the blood-brain barrier and reaches your neurons. Harold is a 79-year-old former accountant from Portland, Oregon, who'd been avoiding egg yolks since 1989. He switched to egg whites based on advice he received from a television program and never questioned it. When Harold came to my practice, he was struggling significantly with what he described as the tip-of-the-tongue problem, knowing a word existed, knowing he knew it, but being completely unable to retrieve it. Within 12 weeks of reintroducing 2 whole eggs, 3 evenings per week, Harold reported that his word retrieval had noticeably improved. His wife confirmed it. She told me with a big smile that he'd beaten her at Scrabble for the first time in 4 years. Now, if you think eggs are impressive, wait until you hear about number 2, because number 2 works on a completely different mechanism, one that targets the root cause of memory loss at the cellular level. In the mitochondria inside each of your brain cells, stay with me. Number 2 is walnuts, and I want you to understand that calling walnuts a brain food is almost an insult to how profound their effect on the aging brain actually is. Your brain cells, called neurons, are powered by tiny energy-generating structures called mitochondria. Think of mitochondria like the batteries inside each brain cell. As we age, and this process accelerates significantly after 65, mitochondrial function declines. The batteries wear down, neurons produce less energy, communicate more slowly, and become increasingly vulnerable to damage and death. This mitochondrial deterioration is now considered by many leading neurologists to be the central engine of age-related cognitive decline. Walnuts contain a uniquely dense combination of compounds that directly support mitochondrial function in neurons. They are one of the only plant foods that contain alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-based omega-3 that the body can partially convert to DHA. But beyond that, walnuts are extraordinarily rich in polyphenols, particularly elagitannins, which are converted by gut bacteria into a compound called urolithin A. Now, pay attention here because urolithin A is one of the most exciting compounds in all of longevity science right now. Research published in the journal Nature Aging in 2022 showed that urolithin A stimulates a process called mitophagy, essentially the cellular housekeeping system that removes damaged mitochondria and allows new, healthy ones to form in their place. Think of it like replacing old, worn-out batteries with fresh ones inside the brain cells themselves. A study from UCLA's Brain Research Institute followed 708 adults with an average age of 71 over a 5-year period. Those who consumed walnuts regularly, specifically 5 or more servings per week, showed cognitive performance scores that were the equivalent of being nearly 5 years younger than non-walnut eaters. 5 years? That's not a supplement. That's a handful of walnuts. For older adults specifically, the anti-inflammatory power of walnuts is critically important. The brain inflammation associated with aging driven by activated immune cells in the brain called microglia responds directly to the polyphenol content in walnuts. Research from the University of Illinois showed measurable reductions in neuroinflammatory markers after just 8 weeks of daily walnut consumption in adults over 65. Here's your practical guidance. 1 to 1.5 oz of whole raw walnuts, that's approximately 7 to 9 whole walnut halves, consumed 60 to 90 minutes before bed. Do not roast them at high temperatures. Heat degrades the delicate omega-3 content. Raw or lightly toasted at low temperatures is ideal. Synergy tip. Combine walnuts with your tart cherry juice from item number 5. The anthocyanins in tart cherry and the L-glutathione in walnuts work synergistically to support the glymphatic system, essentially enhancing the brain's overnight cleaning process from 2 different biological angles simultaneously. And now we have arrived at number 1, the most powerful, most scientifically validated, most underappreciated food for nighttime memory enhancement in seniors. And I promise you, if you've been reading food labels and trying to eat healthy, you have almost certainly been throwing this away. Number 1 is kiwi fruit. I told you it would surprise you. Not kiwi extract, not kiwi supplements, not some processed kiwi product. 2 small, whole, green kiwi fruit consumed 45 to 60 minutes before bedtime. I know it sounds almost too simple. I know it doesn't sound glamorous or exotic or revolutionary, but the research behind what kiwi fruit does to the aging brain during sleep is, without exaggeration, among the most compelling nutritional neuroscience data I have reviewed in my career. Let me explain the mechanism. The primary challenge in optimizing overnight memory consolidation for people over 65 is a compound problem: declining melatonin production, elevated cortisol levels that interfere with deep sleep, and oxidative stress that damages neurons during the overnight hours when the brain's own antioxidant defenses are at their lowest. Kiwi fruit addresses all 3 of these problems simultaneously through a combination of compounds found in no other single food. First, kiwi fruit is one of the richest dietary sources of serotonin. Not tryptophan, the precursor that still needs to be converted, actual bioavailable serotonin that directly supports the transition into deep restorative sleep stages. Research published in the Asia-Pacific Journal of Clinical Nutrition, conducted by Taipei Medical University, studied adults with sleep disorders between the ages of 55 and 75. Those who ate 2 kiwi fruit 1 hour before bed every night for 4 weeks fell asleep 35% faster, slept 13% longer, and showed a 5% improvement in sleep efficiency. And remember what we established at the beginning. Sleep quality is the single most important determinant of overnight memory consolidation. But here's where kiwi fruit becomes truly extraordinary for the aging brain specifically. 2 kiwi fruit contain approximately 230% of your daily recommended vitamin C intake. After the age of 70, something called oxidative stress, essentially the cellular equivalent of rust building up inside your neurons, accelerates significantly. The brain is particularly vulnerable because it consumes 20% of the body's total oxygen supply, generating free radicals at an enormous rate. Vitamin C is one of the primary antioxidants that operates inside neurons to neutralize these free radicals. A study from the Rush Memory and Aging Project, following over 900 older adults for an average of 4.7 years, found that those in the highest quartile of vitamin C intake showed a 36% slower rate of global cognitive decline. Kiwi fruit also contains a unique enzyme called actinidin that dramatically improves protein digestion and amino acid absorption in older adults. And this matters because the brain's neurotransmitter production is entirely dependent on amino acid availability. As we age, gastric acid production declines and protein digestion becomes less efficient. Actinidin compensates for this directly, making kiwi fruit a remarkable digestive ally for seniors. Then there's folate. Two kiwi fruit provide approximately 12% of your daily folate needs, and folate is essential for controlling homocysteine levels in the blood. Elevated homocysteine, an amino acid that accumulates when folate is deficient, is one of the strongest independent risk factors for dementia and brain atrophy identified in the scientific literature. Research from Oxford University's Optima project showed that B vitamin supplementation to reduce homocysteine slowed brain atrophy by 53% in adults with elevated levels. Kiwi fruit provides a natural food-based way to support this same protective mechanism. After the age of 75, the brain loses significant plasticity, its ability to form new connections and reorganize itself, which is called neuroplasticity. The combination of antioxidants, serotonin precursors, folate, and vitamin C in kiwi fruit creates an environment that actively supports neuroplasticity during sleep, essentially creating optimal conditions for the brain to do its repair and memory consolidation work without the cellular interference of oxidative damage and inflammation. Here's exactly how to use this. 2 green kiwi fruit, eaten whole with a spoon, skin removed, 45 to 60 minutes before sleep every night. Consistency is everything here. The serotonin-related sleep benefits take approximately 10 to 14 days to fully establish. Don't give up after 3 nights. Your synergy tip: pair kiwi fruit with a small glass of warm water and a 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric stirred in. Turmeric contains curcumin, which supports the brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF like fertilizer for brain cells. And the warmth of the water gently raises your core body temperature, which then drops during the cooling phase, actually triggering deeper sleep onset. I want to tell you about one more patient. Elaine was 81 years old, a former librarian from Burlington, Vermont. She'd been a voracious reader her whole life, and losing the ability to recall what she'd read from one page to the next was, in her words, like watching my identity dissolve. Elaine's daughter brought her to see me after 2 consecutive years of declining scores on cognitive assessments. We implemented all 5 of the foods you've heard about today, starting with kiwi fruit every single night. At her 6-month follow-up, Elaine had not only stabilized, she had improved. Her memory recall scores had gone up by 19 points on a standardized assessment. She was reading novels again. She was telling her grandchildren the plots. She was herself again, and that, more than any statistic I can cite, is why this work matters. Let me bring this all together for you, because I want you to leave this video with something real. Your brain is not finished. I need you to hear that. No matter whether you are 63 or 73 or 83, the neuroscience is unambiguous. The brain retains remarkable capacity for adaptation, repair, and growth at every age. The foods we talked about today, tart cherries to clean the brain during sleep, fatty fish to rebuild neural insulation, whole eggs to manufacture memory neurotransmitters, walnuts to power your brain cells from the inside out, and kiwi fruit to orchestrate the entire overnight memory process. These are not miracle cures. They are not magic pills. They are the specific, scientifically validated raw materials that your aging brain is desperately asking you for every single night. Your independence is worth protecting. Your ability to recognize the people you love, to tell the stories that define you, to remember who you are and where you've been, that is not a luxury. That is everything. And the beautiful truth, the truth that drives everything I do, is that it is never too late. The brain you have today can be meaningfully healthier, sharper, and more resilient 6 months from now if you give it what it needs in those quiet hours before sleep. You are not powerless in this. You never were. If this video opened your eyes to something new, please share it with someone you care about, a spouse, a sibling, a friend, a neighbor, because this information should not be kept to 5 people. It should be in every home. Hit the like button, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and leave me a comment below telling me which of these 5 foods surprised you the most. And remember, drop your age in the comments. Tell me your story. I am here. I am reading, and you matter to this community more than you know. The scientific references for everything discussed in today's video are listed in the description below. Talk to your doctor before making any significant changes to your diet, especially if you're managing existing health conditions. I'll see you in the next video. Take care of that magnificent brain of yours.